Major warning to all the XRP holders of the world. As we go over today's video, there is a major signal that has been very consistent in calling, in this case, major highs, and it is forming perhaps right in front of our very eyes for XRP. We'll also be going over a little bit of Bitcoin, perhaps doing the opposite there, forming a major high or low. But first things first, for XRP, I want to get a overall view of kind of where we're at in the grand scheme of things. And by the way, just before like people go crazy in the fucking comments, because probably not people of this community, but like just random XRP named people, they always have XRP in their name. I don't think that the overall run is done, but likely a big pullback here. But on, in the grand scheme of things, the weekly time frame, which is a very high time frame for the HPDR, has hit up all the way to the 95% of historical returns range high, which is, as the number would imply, quite extreme. And closing above this region on a weekly time frame is very, 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 very low probability. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it is low probability. So this is a damn good area for a nice wick to the upside, plus a bit of a pullback. And pullbacks can be quite severe, especially for someone like this. Moi Elsa's leaving right now because she's going to ballet. That means it's just you and I, just a couple of dudes talking about some magic monies. Very exciting. Anyways, last time XRP even saw the 95% of historical returns range high hit was way back here in 2017. It actually got even a little bit higher than that. Pretty fucking crazy, but yeah, does happen. I would argue that XRP was a little bit younger in its history there, so perhaps this indicator was a little bit less reliable. But overall, this one very likely, combined with another signal that we're about to look at, is in my opinion very likely the catalyst for a nice major high, forming likely a very nasty pullback. I mean, these things can move fucking humongously in terms of percentage. But again, I actually don't think that the run is done, or at least I wouldn't say that as of now. But looking at this right here, this is the signal that I've been speaking about many times on this channel. It's a variation of the signal, to be fair, but it is the double extreme volatility signal represented by the BBWP indicator. Again, volatility is just the dispersion of returns. When it gets to, in this case, extreme levels at 100 percentile, these are massive moves that you just don't see that often. And whenever I see this signal right here, where I get one extreme and then the second extreme, which we already see that it is going for the second extreme right now, it is time to be looking for, a major high. Does that mean that it has to happen exactly today? No, this can happen over the course of the next few days. Maybe it even takes a week. But in terms of price, we're probably at the high. Maybe there's one more wick to the upside, something like that. And we'll go over failure conditions for what I'm about to speak about, or what I'm talking about right now. But very likely a big pullback as we do see volatility conditions cool off. So I'd want to see this indicator right here contract all the way back down, at least below 50 percentile, and preferably, given an extreme move like this, probably below 20 percentile, maybe even below 10. So that can obviously take time for it to form a higher low. But here's the next portion of this signal, which will confirm tonight. If XRP closes below 283, we will see daily stochastic momentum flip to the downside alongside this extreme BBWP read, again, volatility, and then also the extreme HPDR read right here as well for the weekly time frame. These are all, in my opinion, very, very important things. And very likely to confirm a pullback, again, if XRP closes today below 283, daily closing basis, anywhere below 283, that will flip down. Very likely we're in for some contraction. On top of that, I do want to bring up a more historical thing here as well. What I've done on this chart is I've been looking at the weekly RSI for XRP, and what I've marked off right here is the prior XRP weekly RSI highs. I don't know why that's so hard to say. And these have correlated with some pretty significant highs for XRP, by the way, namely back here in the 2017 run. Now, these first couple ones don't look like much on this chart, but when we actually look at it in terms of percentage, these were severe pullbacks. 62% right there. This one over here about 68%, and then of course the full-on 2017 one was 92%. That's seems like a lot. Actually, probably even more than that because it goes lower here in 2020. But anyways, why am I bringing this up? Because, let's go back into it right here. because the weekly RSI is rapidly approaching this same level, it very likely will actually officially hit it. Maybe not this week, but very likely next week when it opens up again. So yeah, historically that has correlated with those major highs, minimum. Again, perhaps it does go a little bit higher. Perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm wrong on all of this. Definitely possible. Again, the key here, XRP must close above 283 today in order to keep the bullish hopes alive for right now. Until then, I'd be more likely betting on a bit of a pullback here. So the question is then, how far back can this thing pull? How far back can you pull? How far back can you pull, bro? Pull it back. Well, for this, I'd actually like to look at some Fibonacci retracements and come up with some areas of interest. Again, assuming that all of these conditions hold. I might be wrong. It's very possible. And in either XRP above 283 on a daily closing basis, or if it just wicks above probably Tuesday's high. I mean, that's probably just gonna rip into the deep threes, I guess. But the first and most obvious area for a higher low on a pullback would be just around about $2. Below there, you got the 50% retracement at 170, and below there, you got the 618 at 140, 141, 142 region. I'm not saying that all these have to be hit. Just one of these is very likely where I would be kind of keeping my eye on for a higher low in the event of a pullback, which would be a massive percentage move from the high. I mean, even to the 382 is it's almost it's like a 31.5% retracement. The 50% level is a 41.5% retracement. But again, going off of those prior RSI reads, that's not outside of the data set. It's not unreasonable historically. So this can get very, very crazy. And again, this top probably takes some time to form. It can spend some time grinding up around this region and then come down, over the next few weeks, something like that. It can take its time, but ultimately, I would be looking at this as, well, very compelling, at least for myself, as long as this condition right here is present. And the next most important condition, which actually has also not confirmed just yet as well, but very close to doing it, is when the daily BBWP gets a downward slope on a closing basis, preferably below the moving average. So that will have a chance, I imagine, by tonight's closure and tomorrow's open, obviously. But obviously we'll just need to see tomorrow, and I'm not going to be able to do that because I'll be actually traveling. So tomorrow's video will be pre-recorded, talking about the Bitcoin cycle, actually. All right, cool. I think we've spoken enough about XRP here. Again, long term, I do think that this one still does continue on probably significantly into the deep threes. Probably goes for $5 overall at some point, something like that. But anyways, we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. Now, let's get into some Bitcoin action right here. So in Bitcoins, we were speaking about over the past few days, Bitcoin likely has not put in the low of the month just yet. However, yesterday, we do have now our first inkling of a Bitcoin low being put in. Bitcoin has now played down to the average low that we expect for December in bullish months especially. And there's a few other things formulated as well. So first, let's go over the actual data. This, leftover LARP line from yesterday. I'm actually going to leave it right now because, that move's basically played out. But going into our data right here, Bitcoin December lows, just measuring, let's start off with this. Bitcoin December open to low. So measuring the open to the low, especially in upside months when the trend is up, and also during halving election years, that happens relatively early on within the month, and also a relatively shallow pullback for Bitcoin, to be fair. We're talking about 4% and 6.5% essentially. So, taking that from the monthly open, which was right here, 4% puts you where? That puts you at yesterday's low, or just, 377, which actually was, I think, the last one, or perhaps the first one. 6% puts you a little bit closer to last week's low, which I do think is still possible. As long as Bitcoin is playing below 97.5, still possible, I suppose. But it would still be a higher low, to be fair, as well. And that is about 91 and 92,000 bucks. So, it is still potential that Bitcoin does swing back down around for another low. But also what's compelling here is now Bitcoin December lows. Again, they come early on within the month. If we bifurcate this data to only look at when the macro trend is up, the average date of the low is actually the 3.83 days, repeating, of course. But yeah, again, just looking at the data right here in macro uptrend Decembers, well, all of these, except for one, have come within the first week, and actually, very early on within that week typically as well. So, I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, if we just look at the halving/election years, 2012, 2016, and 2020, 2, 5, and 9. It's still pretty early on. So yesterday was day number 4, obviously. We're already past the average. Not that it necessarily works exactly like that, but you can start to understand that statistically speaking, it's not unreasonable to expect that perhaps yesterday was indeed the low. We've hit essentially the average drawdown and also the average date. Great fucking argument, Crown. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to look at I'm just trying to show what I'm looking at, and you can decide whatever the fuck you want to do. Of course, what's also interesting right here is that the daily time frame for Bitcoin is doing what? It is showing potential for hidden bullish divergence here. It is a phantom drive after all, but it is there. So if Bitcoin does confirm a local low here, which we'll go over a condition for that in a moment, that will confirm hidden bullish divergence. Bitcoin very likely gets a retest of the highs, probably just makes new highs from there. In fact, I'd be saying the same thing as yesterday. Look, if you see Bitcoin close even above not Monday's high, but the half day of Monday's high. If you see Bitcoin close above, was this Monday's high? Yeah, it was. Or is my time right? Okay, I think it was Monday high. No, let's actually double check. Okay, it is not Monday high. Apologies, that is not Monday high. It was a 12-hour closure in the middle of Monday. And that was 97,000, let's just call it 97,500. If Bitcoin closed above there, hidden bullish divergence confirmed, not just on the daily, but also on the 12-hour time frame right here. It'd be a higher low. Again, we'd see the average day, we'd see the average drawdown. And at that point, generally, I'm just going to look for Bitcoin to kind of fly into the 6-digit numbers. Of course, we can also look at stochastic momentum. I thought that it was rather interesting right here that we do see stochastic momentum is once again kind of basing off of the same trend line that it's been holding in the lows since September. Again, these are the very early September lows, the October lows, the more recent early November lows, and then perhaps these lows right here. And these were all very important lows on the chart, by the way. I mean, boom, boom, and boom. And we will officially see Bitcoin twist back onto the upside and essentially respecting this trendline regression if Bitcoin does close above where? Oh, funnily enough, it's that same 97,500 number. Crazy, fucking crazy. But if Bitcoin does that, 12-hour closure above 97.5, very likely we see this thing into the 6 digits. Again, we've spoken about areas of interest upon breaking of 6 digits for Bitcoin many times in past videos. So I'll just kind of allude to those if you're interested. And then let's do one last little check-in on our quantum wave bands setups over here. Let's look. Have we seen any setups in the last day? No, nothing on the 30-minute. What about the hourly? Also nothing as well. It is just kind of sitting tight, doing its thing, waiting for its next scalpable signal, I suppose. So I suppose we will end things on that note. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Friday.